And the intro for today is Cat and My Shirt. Both awesome. Hey there, this is your pal Pallie, and welcome back to Overrated. This is episode number 14. Yay, 14. I know there's nothing special about 14, but whatever. We're here, we're having some fun. We're talking about healing and what they're doing into it in Warlords of Draenor. And we're going to be talking and looking at some actual gameplay footage from a beta or alpha or something. So, exciting stuff. Before we get started, I'd like to ask a quick question of the viewers of this series. Would it be interesting for you guys if I had guests on or a co-host or something like that to break it up? Not necessarily looking for it yet, but just thought I would throw that viewer question out there. Comment below, send me a message, Twitter, or whatever. Just might be interesting. I will say it'll probably make the format of the show different, as in probably longer. These seem to be 20-25 minutes. I don't know, I guess I feel like that's a digestible chunk. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment, please. Thank you. Let's move on to the healing blog that they released this week. Seems like they're releasing new information Thursday, Friday, and then I get to talk about it on Saturday. Yay, keep doing that, please, because it's really helping me out with content. No, actually, I'd come up with something, but this is actually pretty nice. So, let's see what they're talking about. Healing, building healthy gameplay. So, eat your vegetables gameplay. No, talking about healing. And there's a lot of stuff in this blog, so let's dive into it. The first thing they talk about is actually more about PvP. And I'm not going to go too in-depth with this, but the basic goal that they have out of these changes is they want to remove resilience and remove battle fatigue. So resilience reduces the amount of damage you take in PvP combat, and battle fatigue reduces the amount that you actually heal another player. It's a weird dynamic that they've added in as well. To do so, they're actually going to try to double people's health, essentially, so that it takes longer for you to die, in essence, and would take more to get you healed back 100%. That's the basic stuff out of that. The other piece in this that's interesting for PvP, PvE type people is that crit heals and damage in PvP are going to be 150% of their normal. If something hits for 100, a crit would hit for 150 as opposed to it hitting for 200 like it does now. So, and this is only in PvP, so crits in raids and dungeons and everything else will be 200%, like they are. Anywho, and I may have messed the math up there on that. Maybe 100 fireball hits for 250. Anywho, whatever. There's a change between PvP and PvE for crits. Cool. No, there's not too much else to talk about in this section. Again, I'm more of a PvE player. People have dove into this, and there's some tweets responding to some of the issues with this. But anywho, moving on. Their next part is about healing spells, and there's a couple things that they're doing with respect to healer spells. One is they are removing a couple sets of spells that are essentially low throughput, low mana cost heals. Essentially, they didn't feel like they needed to be there. So that would be like Nourish, Holy Light, Heal, Healing Wave, stuff like that. And essentially, they just said, people are not really using these very much. Let's just get rid of them and put a different sort of healing dynamic in there. So what they got is this little section here that talks about you have your higher efficiency spells and your higher throughput spells. And in general, your higher efficiency means low mana cost, maybe higher cast time or something like that. Whereas the higher throughput means I'm going to probably use a bunch of mana for this, but it's more of an emergency. I'm going to get people back up quicker with this. Presumably, if you're spamming your throughput spells, you're going to be out of mana pretty quickly. So it's sort of like a mix of, well, you should do this, and then mix in this when you need to, all that kind of jazz. So, what's interesting about these, and I can talk a little bit more about what the Holy Paladin, set looks like at this point, is Holy Light, for example, is what Divine Light used to be. So it's a big heal, slow cast, but pretty mana efficient. Holy Shock, Word of Glory, Light of Dawn, those are all your high efficiently, hey, let me use my holy power to a good end. Flash of Light and Holy Radiance are, I'm going to use a bunch of mana because I can, in a more emergency fashion, or just, this is a harder time for healing, let me use these things. So, same kind of stuff for all of the other different classes that they have listed here. Interesting stuff. Combined with the next thing down below, instant cast heals, this is where it really gets fun. It really gets controversial for people, I suppose. They're removing a lot of the instantness of spells. So, for example, for Paladins, Eternal Flame, Word of Glory, and Light of Dawn now all have a cast time. Cast times. Ooh, interesting. So, even something as simple as putting a Word of Glory up is going to be at least 1.5 second cast. So it's going to be your GCD. Obviously, you can't move while you're casting. That's a big change. And a lot of these other changes listed for druids and priests and everything are the exact same thing. No more instant cast, for the most part. What this leaves a paladin with for instant cast is Holy Shock, and that's it. So, what's the big deal with this? Well, combine this with the one above, and essentially everything's going to be castable, or have to be castable, so healers are going to be less mobile, for the most part. And that's, sparked a lot of debate between the different healing classes, because they're like, come on, monks, can roll around all over the place, druids can too. Well, guess what? Now they can't as much, while growth even has a cast time here. So, interesting stuff. A lot of debate happened there. And let me go into one last change that they put into this, up in this upper section, in which smart heals are no longer smart. So, what does that mean? Well, you cast something like Holy Radiance as a Holy Paladin, and that actually looks around, it hits the target that you have, but then it looks around and says, okay, who are the 3 or 4 most injured raid members? I'm going to heal them for a percentage of what I just healed. It's the same deal for all of the other sort of smart heals, chain heal, and all that other kind of jazz. What Blizzard is saying now is that they're going to make those things not as complex, not as smart, and it'll do the same stuff, but it won't pick the most injured people to heal. It'll just pick 3 random people that are injured. So, for example, you have your raid, maybe everyone's at 80%, but you got one guy at 60% and one guy at 70%. If you were doing this in the current paradigm, it would, if you cast that Holy Radiance on the 60% guy, it would certainly heal them up. Or, no, let's take a better example. You cast the Holy Radiance on someone who's at 80%, it hits them and heals them up maybe to 100% or something like that. But in the current paradigm, you would be guaranteed that the person who was at 60% would definitely get a benefit of the smart heal. And likely the 70% person would. Now, when you target that with this Warlords of Draenor paradigm, if you target that 80% person, it's possible that the 60 and 70% person get it, but it might not. It might heal all of those 80% people up to 100%, and then those 60 and 70% people who might be the tanks, they may be lower because you didn't actually get any heals off on them. So essentially they're making smart heals less smart. And the whole goal of this, and here's the tagline, smarter healers, less smart heals. Take that one to the bank. What they want it to do is go back to some of what was happening in the healing paradigm for, I've said paradigm like 15 times, the healing paradigm for Cataclysm, where it was supposed to be where people weren't like getting hugely damaged and you needed to pick the right spell out in order to get through and have all your mana at the end. Or not all your mana. But anywho, it was more about like triaging and making sure that people were getting the right spells cast on them and all that other jazz. And where people are sort of freaking out a bit is they remember the beginning of Cataclysm when it was really, really freaking hard to do that. Healing, you had to have a ton of spirit, and regen just wasn't there. You were having to be, buff up your, mana efficient heals, and it just didn't work out well. So Blizzard has said they sort of want to buff regen at the start and let it sort of, even out through the expansion. There's a lot of follow-up tweets to all of this, but the bottom line is they want it to be got back to that triage mode where you need to be smart about which heal you're casting and who you're casting it on. So that incorporates all of these changes. It's like you got to be smart about who you cast it on because the smart healers are no longer smart, or smart heals are no longer smart. And you have to worry about your mana regen because now your spells are more, they're either there for throughput or they're there for efficiency. You need to pick the right one for the right situation. So, pretty interesting stuff. Lots of, I've just sort of summarized it for you for the most part. Take a look at the blog, take a look at follow-up tweets if you want, but if they deliver on all of the promises that they're coming up with here, maybe it becomes more interesting gameplay for healers. Healers have sort of gotten used to the whole smart heal. I'm just going to spam Holy Radiance to generate some holy power, then I'm going to Light of Dawn. Maybe throwing a Holy Shock in there if I, get a wild hair up my butt or something. That's what a lot of healing has become these days. And part of it is the smart heals and everything, but part of it is they had to design encounters around the healers being able to get people up so quickly. So they've also said with this new healing system, encounters are going to be designed around it. So it's not going to be like, well, if everyone's at 60%, say on like Heroic Nourishen, that's a panic situation almost, because the next tick of that damage is probably going to knock everyone to like 30%, and oh my god, people are going to start dropping off and dying if they get hit by anything random. With Warlords, apparently, they're going to sort of moderate that damage and be like, okay, say on a Nourishen type encounter, maybe every tick takes like 10% off. But your heals are healing for less, and people have bigger health pools, in essence, in percentage-wise, after the item squish, all that blah, blah, blah. So you have to think, well, I got someone at 60%, 70%, and everyone's at 80%. I could do a Holy Radiance, which, again, won't be guaranteed to get the 60% person, or everyone's at 80%. That's pretty good. That's pretty fine. I'm going to use a Holy Light on the 60% person and then see where I'm at. And then maybe that 60% person is up to 90% or something. And that 70% person is still there. And everyone else is like at 70% now. Probably I should pick Holy Radiance now to hit. And that will get a bunch of people back up. That's the sort of thinking and the triage and the what should I do next type gameplay that it looks like they're looking for. We'll see if they deliver on it. There's going to be a lot of tuning. There's a lot of things to get right about that, but we'll see. Waiting for beta. And speaking of beta, we got some gameplay footage. So, a press site, or press guy, whatever, near Huang, got a chance to actually poke around in the beta of Warlords and posted some videos of it. Essentially, this is a lot of him running around doing quests and being a hunter, which is awesome. I like that it's a hunter, so I get to see a lot of interesting stuff. And in fact, the first thing for hunters is it's time to panic because they remove Stampede. Actually, they removed Stampede from every spec and made it a talent that you can pick. So here's the guy talenting into Beast Mastery, and then he decides, let me look at my talents. And that pops up the lovely talent tree. There it is. Yay! And for the most part, I wrote an article about this on blizzmaster.com, which I'll link in the video here. But basically, the moral of the story is tier 1 through 4 and tier 6 are completely unchanged at this point. Tier 5 is the interesting one, the Murder of Crows, Blink Strike, Stampede one. And then the last tier, of course, is our new talents, which I'll talk about here in a second. So, I don't know if you can see them in the video, but anywho, it looks like the hunter tree. Nothing special, fancy, whatever. But anywho, the fun part is Stampede, that people are freaking out a little bit about. And we have no idea what they're thinking yet on the tuning or any of that kind of jazz. So, as I wrote about in the article, maybe Stampede becomes that big 5-minute, 6-minute cooldown, whatever, that I know I need a burst right here at the end, or I need the burst on the pull, and then way at the end when we're in the execute phase, we need it there too. So, and then Murder of Crows becomes that less frequent but moderate burst cooldown, and then Blink Strikes becomes this is just a passive damage increase that sort of is there the whole fight, and you have less cooldowns to worry about. We'll see. Maybe that's their thinking. We get to look at our last tier, which is Flaming Shots. And that's sort of a dot, basically, attached to your shot. Focusing Shot is hey, this replaces your Cobra Shot and whatnot to generate your focus, but it generates a whole lot of focus, but it's a long cast time and you need to stand still. So it would kind of change up how you would play. You would need to make sure you drain your focus completely, then use this when you're standing still, and then you're back at it type deal. So, interesting choice. And then the last one is called Versatility. And this is a talent they had in before, I think in BlizzCon, when they showed some of this stuff off and previewed Hunter talents. And this is, you have, all of your pets have all of the special abilities from different exotic pets and stuff. So they have Last Stand, they have Roar of Sacrifice, some of those things, which might be interesting. You would have an extra Hand of Sacrifice, you have extra cooldowns off of your pets type deal. Yeah, interesting stuff. You probably have to bind a lot of extra buttons on there, but I don't know, interesting stuff. But so he picks some talents and goes and does some fun little quests and whatnot. I want to show this particular one. This is an interesting little dynamic, I thought. Essentially, it's same old type quest. Here we got to beat this big boss guy down. It starts off with a little cinematic type deal. You have to ride up the chain and go up there, and looks like your NPC friend. Now here's the boss saying ha ha ha, you can't beat me. I'm awesome. Doing boss things. Being a baddie. Here's your NPC friend coming up the stairs, and he's like, oh, I'll take care of these guys. Oh, I'm ambushed. Crap, I can't get to the boss. And the boss is like, yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah. But here you are sneaking up behind the boss and going, bam, in your face. Let's do this. And what I wanted to point out about this is not necessarily the play or the quest, which, is interesting itself. But this little encounter, it's got some interesting sort of raid mechanic things. So there he got hit by a fire thing, and then this next thing is this shard stuff, which sort of follows him. He gets hit by, he moves out of it, but the shards, follow and hit him still. So just some interesting basic raid mechanics. And this fight actually takes, over a minute and a half or something. And, he ends up there's a lot of floor space, and that lava is actually expanding, it looks like. And you're kind of looking at this going, well, crap, he's running out of room, and he needs to, be careful and all that other kind of jazz. It's almost it's a decently long fight for quests that we've seen, and I'm sure in BOA weapons and all that other jazz, this is going to be cake. But or for someone who pops a bunch of cooldowns and all that other jazz. But it's a pretty interesting encounter for just a simple quest. Kind of a little more difficult than what you might have seen in other things. So I don't know. I liked it. I liked watching that little footage and whatnot. Anywho, here's another clip where he completes a quest, and there's his follow-up quest for him to go check in with this guy or get to the next stage. But what I find interesting about this is I think what I'm seeing here with these guys coming in that are yelling about, hey, let's go do this. Yeah. Throughout this whole footage and whatnot, these guys have been yelling and talking back and forth about, we're going to go storm this thing. We got to go do this. And I wonder whether this is actually a world event type thing, kind of like the Rift stuff that just sort of happens. It's a world quest, I guess. So if you follow these guys, and this guy, I'll try to stop it exactly where he opens up the map, but it's talking about heading to this fortress that's over here, and I wonder whether this is just sort of like a, hey, go help these dudes out, and you'll get some experience, and you'll have a little story type of deal. Sort of like the Timeless Isle, stuff that just pops up. It's like, oh, the pirate ship's up. Let's go do that real quick. Same kind of thing. And maybe this is it. Maybe I'm reading into this, and maybe he's just following random PCs that just happen to be doing some stuff. But I thought that was interesting. Maybe kind of cool. Might have some world event type jazz. So I thought all that was pretty interesting. And there's a lot of the gameplay footage up there. You can go take a look. There's some cool, one of the first ones that's fun to watch is this one where he's avoiding a whole bunch of balls that are flying down a thing. This reminds me of, what was it, Zool Grubb maybe? Had the thing where the guy was throwing the boulders down, he had to run up it. I mean, the same thing, but I don't know. These are always like fun, interesting things to break up the boredom of questing, so I don't know. Fun. Whatever. Avoid the flaming rocks, boulders, whatever coming at you. Much of the rest of the footage is about like kill this or follow these guys up here and clear this deck out and all that other type jazz. So, typical questing stuff. I wasn't expecting like revolutionary whatever, but anywho, interesting stuff. Take a look at them. Take a look at the videos. I linked the Hunter Talent one within the Blizzmaster article, so you can at least get a start of looking at them there if you want to. But I don't know. Found it interesting. Lots of cool stuff. So that is it for the previews or the gameplay footage. Again, you can check those on. They're pretty available. Near Huang is the username on YouTube if you want to check that out. Again, I said the Blizzmaster article. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But anywho, that'll be about it for today's Overrated. Happy to be talking about some more blog information. Dev water coolers, talking healing, all that other fun jazz, taking out some spells, smart healers, less smart heals. Tagline, I don't know, I'll work out some phrase for that. Got to see some gameplay footage, got to see Stampede as a talent. Oh my god! Oh, it's all good. And got to see some early stuff. That's always fun and exciting. Hopefully beta starts coming out. We start seeing more stuff, liking all the information and all the follow-ups and the tweets that Blizzard's been doing. Keep that stuff up. And please remember to comment below if you think like a co-host or guest hosts or whatever would be interesting. If not, say that as well. Anywho, appreciate you guys watching. Overrated number 14 is done. Love y'all. Bye.